Yo folks, and welcome to the channel. My name is Bork. In today's video, we'll be covering my top 10 picks for the best gacha games of 2021. Just note these are my opinions. I'm only including games released in 2021. We'll have all sorts of different scores revolving, and I'll have my gold standards as far as like the best gacha games at the very end. But let's go ahead and jump right into this. First one's being is Kuro Gafe Gun. This is number 10 on the list. And when it comes to this, it was a standard ARPG that I enjoyed. A bunch of lovable characters, voice acting, everything you could sort of ask for. 18K reviews, 4.5 on the Google Play reviews. It was really nice. iOS 4.8, 1400 ratings. That is pretty good as well. And then when it comes to revenues, 70K. This was one of those games that you could sort of relax and have a good time as far as actually having a cafe and not being too pay to win in the experience. And then last things being is Toho Lost Word. This is also a number 10. So I guess technically there's 11 games on the list, but oh well. This was a pretty fun game, standard JRPG. I enjoy myself in it because of like the music, obviously, the franchise. 13K on the Google Play reviews, and then 4.2 on the Google Play Store. Honestly, it was a lot of fun just like listening to the soundtrack more than anything. This is a very classic game as far as original soundtracks go. And then 4.5 on the reviews, 705 reviewers. That is really cool. And honestly speaking, happy that it is actually performing on the revenue front. 200K really solid for this sort of franchise and this game in particular. And yeah, those are like the first top 10 games I would have to say. Next thing being is Mythic Heroes at number 9. Now, this game was honestly kind of surprising at how well it performed when you actually look at the stats for it. I know it's an AFK clone based off of gods and stuff on different like sort of mythology, but it was really cool just seeing it go into the distance because it has 168,000 Google Play reviews and then 4.7 as like an actual score. Pretty decent. And then when it comes to like the actual ratings, 25,800 people reviewed this at a 4.9 score on the iOS. That is actually insane. And it's just an AFK idle game. Nothing too crazy, but obviously this game, people loved it. And then 1 million on the revenue. I'm not saying this game was like great. I'm saying it was really solid for an AFK arena clone. I think it's gonna be around for a while and there's definitely gonna be an audience for it. And honestly, really like huge kudos to the Mythic Heroes community. Next thing is Counterside Southeast Asia. I want to make that very explicit because this is not out in global. You can play it in English and the characters, like the actual story, the gameplay is like a tower defense. I had a lot of fun with this game. 56,000 reviewers, 4.1 on like the actual overall score. Not too shabby for itself. I enjoy the voice acting. It's coming to JP, or actually released in JP already, so I'm pretty sure it's going to come to global very soon. Xilong Games is a pretty decent publisher from what I can tell. They publish Langrisser. Also has 1,000 reviewers at 4.7 stars. This game, I would say it was pretty fun, and it would have been one of my like top 5 games if it wasn't for the fact that it was released in Southeast Asia and not a lot of people can play it. 100K on the revenues, not too shabby for itself. I'm sure it will do even better once it comes to global. Okay, back to number 7 slot, Konosuba Fantastic Days. This is released by Nexon, but the thing is, this game was actually handled really well. 228,000 reviewers is actually insane. 4.3 on the Google Play Store. Standard JRPG, not mixing it up too crazy. You know, it has their elemental dungeons and all the different things. 4.8 on the iOS store. 11K reviewers. That is actually really crazy. And as far as revenues go, 400K. The gameplay was just normal. It wasn't crazy, but you play this game because it's Konosuba Fantastic Days. It didn't feel like an IP cash grab because the voice acting, the handling. Shout outs to Tier, the community manager, and all the folks handling like the actual game. You guys are absolutely amazing for keeping like the Konosuba sort of team very close and everyone sort of knows each other. I really like that, and I think Nexon really did well for this particular game. The next game, number 6 right here with Blue Archive. They really messed this one up. Nexon, I'm talking to you guys. Why is that? It's mostly because of the censorship issues. It's still a great game. That's why I have it at this spot. 51,000 reviews, 2.9 on the actual review score. And then iOS 3.5, 1,100. Why is the score so low? Mostly because of the fact that they censored the crap out of this game. 4 million in revenue. The base game itself is a lot of fun. The soundtrack is fun. The characters, they're pretty decent and lovable. They're all little kids, you know, going to school, training up for all these different things. The game was alright. There's conquest, there's PvP. It has everything essentially made for it to be a good game. The only issues was the fact that the IP itself isn't being handled properly, and they could definitely use some work on like other fronts. It was still a fun game for me. That's why I have it at the number 6 slot. Blue Archive right here. All right, number 5. We're going into the top 5 games. Revive Witch right here. Is anyone surprised? This game did surprisingly well, despite the pixel graphics, in my opinion. Overall, I had a lot of fun trying this game out. On the review front, 37,000 reviews, 4.6, which is pretty solid. And then iOS, 4.8, 2,100 ratings. It was a really surprise hit to me because I didn't think the pixel genre was gonna do that well as far as Revive Witch goes. 500k revenue is nothing to scoff at. And when it comes to this game, the thing that had me the most was like the way they told the story, the way you're essentially entering the actual dungeons, roaming, and actually knowing the characters. I know it was instant space, it wasn't open world, but not a lot of games do like this dungeon sort of aspect where you enjoy the actual gameplay, the moment-to-moment interactions between characters. A lot of them are a bit too linear in the sense you jump from stage to stage. This one, you actually get to walk around, you get to interact with things, you sort of live in the actual environment. And I just appreciated that because it felt like an actual game opposed to like a gacha game. You know what I mean? Like it felt like an actual RPG versus something where it's like you just go from stage to stage. I don't know what it is about the open world map or like the actual map that had me this feeling of, oh, this is different. This is something that I can actually enjoy and actually have an experience on. But that's Revive Witch for you. The next thing is Figure Fantasy at the number 4 slot. Now, when it comes to this game, I don't think it did anything really revolutionary as far as gameplay goes. It did revolutionary things with its actual, visuals, the way it looked. 14,580 reviews, pretty amazing. 3.8 on the review score. That's not the best. And then when it comes to iOS, 627 and then 4.4. If you look at the revenues, 2 million is actually insane. But I think this is mostly because of the fact that it was unique and it was holding the number 1 slot for quite some time because it was different. And people love figurines in the anime community. I know I love them. And honestly, one of the funnest games on the list when it comes to just visually pleasing. All right, that's Figure Fantasy at the number 4 slot. Next things being top 3. I covet these games. I think these games are some of the best. Punishing Gray Raven right here. Why is this one of the best? The gameplay. Everything about it was one of the things that was like, oh, the visuals, the soundtrack felt like a game that I could jump into and actually enjoy. 92,000 reviews at 4.4. Very solid right here. And then when it comes to iOS, 3.9, 4,600 ratings, 800k revenue. This was not a cutesy gacha game. This took itself very seriously, very post-apocalyptic. You knew what the characters were sort of struggling with, but at the same time, you had the gameplay to sort of back it up. Felt like every single action, every movement, evasion, all these different things that you would normally play in an action RPG was finally implemented in Punishing Gray Raven. Definitely one of the top games. I really love it. Punishing Gray Raven is a phenomenal game. And of course, at the number 2 slot, not number 1, Princess Connect Redive. This did release in 2021 because the soft launch was in 2020. But at the end of the day, this game changed my life. I love the Princess Connect community. Do I really need to talk about how I love the gameplay in this? I know it's not too active, but I like how you do strategic elements before the actual gameplay starts. You pick like your roster and it goes from there. 4.3 on the Google Play Store, 56,000 reviews. It was a really fun game and I love this game. I plan to cover it for as long as possible, as long as it's out in global, even in JP if I have to. 4.8 on the iOS, 7,800 views. I love the cutesy art style. I love Pecorine. I love Kokoro, Harold. I love all the characters in this game. Kaori is my number 1 waifu. 300k revenue for November. It was such a pleasure covering this game and I love how Crunchyroll is not letting up on the giveaways every single day. They are giving us stuff in this January New Year time frame. 2021, this was a surprise hit for me because I was like, oh, I like this game, but let's see if it does well. It did phenomenally well. It blew my expectations out of the water. And look at this, release dates January 18th, 2021. So there you go. In case you're like, is this really 2021? Yes, it is. Now, my number 1 game, what is it going to be? Alchemy Stars. Is this a surprise to anyone? No, probably not, because the gameplay, the visuals, the way it's being handled, definitely one of the top games. I would have to say 156,000 reviews, 4.7. The tile grid-based combat was one of the best, 4.8, 1,000 reviews. And I hope this game sort of gets an anime. I feel like it sort of deserves it. 2 million on the revenue. I really loved like how this game really knocked it out of the park as far as gameplay goes. Maybe it's not number 1 for everyone, but as far as being different, as far as like being like, hey, we're not going to do what everyone else does, I feel for creativity points, it deserves to be number 1. And that's why I think this game will probably help change things in the gacha industry, maybe like newer games, or it's not really like new gameplay. It's rehashed and reformatted and edited for an updated sort of 2021 scenario. And I just want gacha games to take a little bit of edge as far as RPG experience and not sort of be like these normal gacha games where it's always turn-based or an action RPG. Try something a little bit different, and hopefully a card-based RPG released, because those are usually my favorites. Seven Deadly Sins, I like the gameplay. I hate the monetization. I hate the publishers. But yeah, Alchemy Stars, #1 on the list. Very easy for me for 2021. Obviously, it would have been Princess Connect if it wasn't for the fact that that would have been a little bit too biased, right? #1 game in my heart, all right? As far as other mentions goes, I want to cover Umamusume. This was one of the funnest games I had to play, you know, within 2021, its release. It was one of those things where I don't even know if it released in 2021. I just want to say this is a fun game, and I hope it comes to global one day. That's why I'm covering it, and when it does, it's not going to do well. This game, 78,000, 4.8 on the Google Play Store. Really fun. I love like the sim trainer management. It was just one of these things where I was just like, I didn't know I wanted this, and now I want it in global. Hopefully it releases. Next special mention is Nier Reincarnation. I actually sort of like this game as far as a storytelling aspect. I would say this is revived Witch in a 3D sort of format with more morbid storytelling. And at the end of the day, it's a Yoko Taro game held by the fact it's his IP. And I wouldn't say it's groundbreaking, but definitely deserves a mention. Next one's being is Pokemon Unite. This is, you know, your League of Legends sort of S-style inspired game, but the fact that it's on Switch, Google Play Store, App Store, I'm pretty sure they'll release a PC client one day. It's a really decent game, 609,000, nothing to scoff at, 4.1. I liked it, and I just wanted to give it a mention. World Flipper, this is a fun game as well. I like that, you know, the pinball action RPG sort of combat. It was really fun to play, and it wasn't something that I was like, oh, this is fun, because of the fact it was different. I just playing different things when it comes to gacha games, having, you know, a more worldly experience in some ways. And then next thing is Fate Grand Order. Now, we're jumping into the games that I would say are the gold standard, all right? These aren't mentions. These are like the top games in my opinion. Fate Grand Order is one of the best when it comes to PvE, storytelling, franchises. It's everything that you would want a gacha game to become, because if you cannot achieve Fate Grand Order, then you don't, in my opinion, deserve to be a top game. This is one of the best, not because of its monetization, but because of the storytelling. How they essentially integrated gacha games into the actual light novels. Everything about it screamed quality because of the way it always keeps everything balanced, and I really hope that this game lasts forever, because it is the king of PvE gacha games, and it continues to push the standard as far as storytelling goes, and that's why I have to mention it as one of the top games ever in gacha games. Okay, next one's is Summoner's War. Why is this on the list? Mostly because it's a top PvP game. Their community for this is insane. It's unprecedented how much money and like the different tournaments that occur for the Summoner's War sort of franchise. I have to say, Com2uS did really well for this game, and it's probably going to last forever. I would say this is probably the top tournament style game in the mobile industry so far, and it definitely deserves to be a gold standard as far as like PvP games. Everyone sort of copies like the Summoner's War and Fate Grand Order style. That's why I feel like, you know, Summoner's War, Fate Grand Order, they are the gold standards. Everyone copies this format, and it's always been this way ever since they sort of released their games. And then next thing's is Arc Knights, probably the top tower defense, the best game I would have to say when it comes to like that sort of scenario. And I have to mention it as a gold standard. The characters, the storytelling. I didn't play this game, I've never covered it, but I know when you look at it, it screams quality, it screams storytelling. It has everything that makes it to be one of the best games, because they know their audience, they know what they're doing. They're very focused and they have a plan. I'm sure there was a roguelite sort of dungeon. I am really curious when that's going to be released, or if it's already been released. Let me know down in the comments. But 147,000 reviews, 4.5 stars. Really amazing game right here. Definitely the gold standard tower defense, the best, I would have to say, in this sort of scenario. What is the most gold standard game ever to release right now, as of this moment? No one's surprised, Genshin Impact. Why is it here? Because it is changing the gacha game. It is an open world RPG. Everyone can play it. It's on almost every single console, PC, mobile device. It is so accessible, it is ridiculous. I have never seen a game take the world by storm the way it did. It is insane. Everyone covered it, everyone played it. It was free to play, and I know it's not really monetization friendly, but 2.9 million. You can combine every single gacha game here, put it on, hey, how many people reviewed it, and Genshin Impact will wipe them all off the board. And it's not an amazing game. I would just say it's the most accessible game, and it does well on, like, you know, as far as like, hey, marketing and being very approachable, I would have to say, as far as a gacha game goes. But yeah, that's going to be my list. Here's going to be like my Google spreadsheets with different scores and stuff, in case you were sort of curious, like, Bork, were you actually talking about gameplay, visuals, soundtrack, and monetization? Yeah, I actually scored all of these. I didn't want to number everything like that. All the links are here in case you want to view it. And of course, I have like my honorable mentions over here. Yes, there's more games in 2021. I probably missed some stuff. Let me know down in the comments what are your favorites. And just note, these are my opinions. Gold standards: Genshin Impact, Fate Grand Order, Summoner's War, and Arknights. Those are like one of the best, the top 4 in my opinion. And if you can sort of live up to those standards, I feel those are going to be the games that are going to withstand the test of time. I would even put Umame Sume for being very different as far as the sim management. And I feel like Alchemy Stars, if it can do like marketing better, marketing is like the most important thing when it comes to gacha games, then it will definitely perform overall. Why is Genshin Impact one of the best? Its marketing is insane, all right? And the same thing with Fate Grand Order. There's a very fervent community. Same thing with Arknights, and same thing with Summoner's War. It always falls down to the community, and that's what makes games like some of the best. And the Alchemy Stars community was the most vocal as far as being like, hey, this is one of the best. And Princess Connect, definitely my love for the community. And all of the gacha games on this list, and any gacha game at all. Anyways, if you made it this far in today's video, consider subscribing, dropping a like, leaving a comment, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter. Once we hit 30,000 subs, we're doing a giveaway. Thanks so much for watching. Have yourself a fantastic day, and see you guys in the next one.